I don't know about you, Andrew Mason, but are you feeling hot, hot, hot?
I'm not feeling hot, hot, hot. I'm feeling mellow, mellow, mellow.
Okay.
Maybe I'll get hot, hot, hot in the course of this show.
Yeah, that's the way we do it on this program. That's right.
Hot.
Tell me something good, Andrew Mason.
I
Cecil
run hot
Lammey.
sometimes.
Yeah, you do, man. Yeah, it's all good. I think we all do at times, right?
Yeah, it's like it was pointed out to me recently that the one thing that kind of gets me out of being logical is being angry, running hot, right?
Yeah. Righteous anger, that's for sure.
Yeah.
My trick, I'm always angry. It is Orange and Blue today, Cecil Lammey, Andrew Mason. And what's up with these offensive line injuries? We have Luke Wattenberg, Alex Palczewski, both down, both ankles, I believe. I'll go back and look at the updated injury report. But this is a concern now, Mace. When you're entering week 6, you're up against a very physical Chargers team, and you're still worried about protecting your rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, now down a center and a right tackle who just happens to be your backup right tackle.
Yeah, so you are potentially going to your third option at right tackle, which would, if you go by what we saw last Sunday, would be Matt Peart coming in and playing right tackle. It's interesting. Like, he's the first man up behind Garrett Bolles at left tackle. Alex Palczewski, the first man up behind Mike McGlinchey at right tackle. But now you're on option number 3. We actually saw what the line would look like for one play if you lost Garrett Bolles as well, and that was Peart bouncing back over to the left side, and then Frank Crum on the right side. Now, whether it would look like that going forward on Sunday if you had an injury to Bolles, that's something up for debate, because now you have old friend Cam Fleming back around on the practice squad. And you have to think, Cease, that Cam Fleming, even though he just arrived, I'd be surprised if he did not get a jersey as a practice squad elevation on Sunday to provide depth, because the Broncos have gone into every game with 2 backup tackles active. That's why Frank Crum has been active. So I would expect that if you've got Palczewski down on Sunday and Matt Peart starting at right tackle, that you would see Crum and probably Cam Fleming getting the practice squad elevation and Frank Crum active for a 4th straight game.
Yeah, and when we see the flurry of activity yesterday, it also clues us into a wide receiver thing. I'm not exactly sure how you want me to set that up, but we will, because we had a DNP with a hand injury for Josh Reynolds today.
Not the Achilles tendonitis that we've been talking about with him.
Right.
That in week 2 kept him out on Wednesday. Weeks 3 and 4 had him limited for the Wednesday practice. Now he's got a hand injury and wasn't out there today. And again, we always say focus on what they do, not what they say. What the Broncos did on Tuesday was bring in a center and a tackle onto their practice squad. The center is relevant because Luke Wattenberg is dealing with an ankle injury. So you bring in a center, you bring in a tackle. You also have Will Sherman on the who was on the practice squad. Now he's injured, and he's on injured reserve. And then you also brought in 2 receivers. One was bringing Caden Davis back. The other was signing a personal favorite of ours from the 2023 Shrine Bowl in Vegas, A.T. Perry out of Wake Forest. So the guy that you and I both compared to Tim Patrick.
Yeah, independently.
And now he's here.
We came together and said, like, did you see Tim Patrick? And we were like, I saw Tim Patrick. So, like, when we observe practice, because we watch it kind of separately a little bit, even if we're next to each other, we're just quiet, we're watching practice. But it's like, independently, we came together and like, that dude looks like Tim Patrick.
I know.
So he's here now, and it's exciting. But what's up with Josh Reynolds? We might have had a little slip from Garrett Bolles, Mace. You want me to play it?
Let me preface this because I asked Garrett Bolles about the impact of getting Javonte Williams and the running game going overall on the offense, because one of the things goes back to what Sean Payton said when I asked him about this back on draft weekend. Two things that can most help out a rookie quarterback are a run game and strong defense. You've had the strong defense basically since the jump this year. Now you've got the running game coming into its own. So you're feeling pretty good there. You've got the two things that can support a guy like Bo Nix. But beyond that, how does that help him? And Garrett Bolles discussed guys on the offense, and then he mentions Josh Reynolds. Let's play the comment.
It's special. I think, when you get the running game going, it opens up, the lanes for our playmakers to get the ball in their hands so that we can, push the ball downfield. And, with the way that 10 throws the ball, he can throw the deep ball. And when you can throw the deep ball, it scares defenses. But when you can get the run game going, it opens up those deep ball moments. And, we have playmakers that can do it with, Bailey and Courtland. And, it's sad that we lost Josh, but Josh too. And hopefully he comes back and be healthy. But, Troy, I know he'll get the next one, that's for sure. We just have a bunch of young guys that are just eager to win and do things that are great. So, but Javonte running the ball, Jaleel running the ball, we have two guys that can just pound the rock, and it makes our job up front a lot easier.
I love the fact that he brought up Vele first. And it was curious when we were talking to Garrett, Mace, how Vele was the first one, and then Court, and then he mentioned Josh. I was like, oh, Vele, huh? Yeah, I might get a jersey for him this week.
Didn't get a jersey last week. Hasn't gotten a jersey since the rib injury. Talked to us last week. And by the way, when a player actually talks in the locker room, the Broncos are real squirrely about injured players talking. So Bailey talked to us last week. So it's okay. He's good to go. He's not listed on the injury report anymore. Right.
Yep.
Yep.
So there, Bolles talks about the ground game and support. We'll get more on the ground game. Estime practicing today, but we would be without Josh. All right. So it seems like Vele would be next man up. Franklin would get more opportunity. We all want more Marvin Mims. Bolles didn't mention him, but it seems like there's three that we'll be concentrating on, including Court, Vele, and Franklin.
Yeah, and Franklin, let's face it, even though Mims had one more snap than Franklin did on Sunday, just going on Franklin getting the opportunity there to catch the deep ball. And the fact that they've continued to kind of push him out there in recent weeks, even though Devon Vele has gotten healthy, it's like Franklin appears to have more favored nation status. Sorry, I was thrown off by the comment there.
Yeah, the comment's really funny. If you stare at my shirt, you can see a sailboat. A schooner
when
is
am I going to see the sailboat?
Yeah. Clean it up. Yeah.
I did clean it up,
line.
didn't you?
Yeah, that's an awesome line. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's right. So thank you, Nate, for chiming in the chat room. And now we'll see what Bo Nix looks like. A Chargers defense. They're dealing with their own set of injuries. They're dealing with tackle injuries. So two teams pretty banged up showing up on Sunday to play. Oh, no, yeah. If you're the Broncos, if you're the Chargers, you're coming off a rest. If you're the Broncos, you got a game. You got 2 games in basically the next week, essentially 8 days.
2 games against teams dealing with injury concerns of their own. And this is the other thing. We're talking about like some winnable games here potentially because you're facing teams at the right time. Just to kind of go through the Chargers injury report today, Cease. So you've got Derwin James did not practice, not injury related, personal reasons, but you have Joey Bosa not practicing with a hip injury, Joe Alt limited with a knee, Justin Herbert limited with an ankle, Hayden Hurst limited with an Achilles, Asante Samuel Jr. DMP with a shoulder, Rashawn Slater limited with a pec injury. I mean, the limiteds are, okay, those guys are going to play, but you see Joey Bosa with a DMP for the hip. right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're still banged up, even though they got a chance to kind of reset over the weekend with a bye. And then you're going to get Spencer Rattler for what would likely be his second straight start. All signs pointing toward Rattler getting the nod on Sunday for the Saints. And I'm encouraged by the Broncos getting to play Spencer Rattler in start number 2 rather than start number 1. Start number 1, it's unknown. There are a lot of quarterbacks who can go out there and start number 1 and tear it up. Start number 2, you've got some film to work with. Now, the real test becomes start 3, start 4. Think back to Drew Locke. Drew Locke, had his biggest game arguably in his second career start back in 2019. Although, man, that thing was inches away from disaster when he was looking for Noah Fant on that early pass.
That was the first pass of the game.
Yeah, could have completely gone in the other direction that day, but
yeah,
Fant caught it, took it upfield, and they were off and running. The difference between success and failure in this league, it's a very, very narrow margin like that. So I like the Broncos, Vance Joseph, Jim Leonard, getting to dissect the film of Spencer Rattler in that short week leading up to the Saints game. I think that if Rattler comes out, throws some curveballs at Tampa Bay, I think you'll see the Broncos prepared to react to those in the Superdome next week. It's a good moment for the Broncos right now. You're facing a banged-up Chargers team, a Saints team without Derek Carr at quarterback, and then you close the month with Carolina coming in. You know what, Cease? You've got a chance to be right because you had the Broncos 6-2 after 8 games. I had them 5-3.
Mm-hmm. Then November hits, and it's ugly. But right now it's October, and it's looking good. And it's looking good for this team to be buyers at the trade deadline. Like, I would rent players. If you're 6-2 at the trade deadline, Mace, I'm renting Amari Cooper. He needs money next year. Yeah, that's fine. You got to take a shot. If you're going to be in the dance, then make your shot. Take that shot and grab a player. Getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. And I don't think the Broncos are. I don't know about you, but the vibe from the locker room today, Bolles talked about it a little bit of like, well, you guys are 3 in a row and they're not the favorites this week, but it's like, how do you kind of adjust things when you're not the underdog fighting for respect? Now you've got Bucky Brooks calling them a top 10 team. I disagree with that, but it's like, okay, I didn't get a sense like these guys are over their skis or feeling, too frisky, frosty, whatever about themselves.
They're not a top 10 team right now, but they're not a bottom 10 team either. I'd say realistically, if you had to rank them, they're somewhere between 13 and 17. I mean, there's a massive number of teams at 2-3 and 3-2.
Right.
And most of these teams, you can just, if you're trying to pick a battle between those two teams in that muddled mass, you might as well flip a coin. So that's something to think about. The Chargers, of course, are right there kind of in the middle of that at 2-2. So it's, the Broncos aren't in a position where they can take anything for granted. You can feel good about your chances, but this is not a team that is advanced to the point where it can be off and expect to get the dub. They don't have the ability to coast.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly the word I was thinking of.
And like I said this morning, it's like you're putting acorns away by winning right now. I've used that analogy. I usually use it in baseball to say, okay, hey, if you get off to a hot start in April, doesn't mean you're going to stay that way. But if you go like 20-10 in your first 30 games, they can't take those 20 wins away. And you've got that in case you have injuries and inevitable slump. Well, that's what you're doing right now. If you can get these next 3 games and get to 6-2, they're not taking those 6 wins away. Those are acorns in the tree. And you might need to have a few of those if you hit the skids in the Baltimore, Kansas City, Atlanta stretch of the schedule. And then beyond that, you get the Raiders on the road, You get the Browns at home. You get a bye week. You get the Colts at home. All of a sudden, by the way, December doesn't look as daunting as it once did. Cleveland at home. Now, maybe Cleveland will figure it out if Kevin Stefanski can get his way. And right now, you figure, pardon me, I'm getting a little enthusiastic. I'm spitting fire. Kevin Stefanski, you get the sense that if he got his way, Jameis Winston will be the quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
Not Deshaun
That's an
Watson.
ownership call. Ownership matters, everybody.
And you know what? Putting Jameis Winston in there is the thing that could change the Browns' outlook sooner rather than later.
Like they did with Joe Flacco last year.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that even though the Browns are not a great team right now, and December does look a little more benign than perhaps you thought it would, don't expect the Browns to be in the same spot as they are right now, because eventually, finally, they might just go to Jameis Winston, and then I think that would help them out. You have the Colts there 2 weeks later after the bye at the Chargers. That'll be a tough one no matter what, I think. And then the Bengals, the Bengals are going to be an interesting matchup, even if they don't put it together and get back in the race. They're still going to be a challenge because they have enough weapons to slice and dice you up. The problem is they can't stop anybody. So
right.
The Broncos, basically with this Broncos team, Cease, I'd say they're not in a position where I can put anything in Sharpie as a win, but I'm also not putting anything in Sharpie as a loss either. And that's progress, because there were times a year ago where we'd say, "Oh, that they're going to lose that game," right?
I'll give you a baseball reference: easy out.
Yeah,
you don't want to be an easy out. The Broncos aren't an easy out anymore. Now they're not a tough out necessarily.
Yeah. They're no one's homecoming opponent anymore. If you had homecoming in the NFL,
right,
they'd become a homecoming opponent. They'd become the get right game, right? Mm-hmm. We all know about the get right game.
The slump buster.
They had become the get right game. They're not that anymore. You can't do that against these guys.
Yeah, I like it. So how do you better protect Bo Nix? Use those weapons that you have. Now, Emor asks an interesting question here in the chat room. At what point do we kick the tires on Dulcich and give Bo some serious tight end help? I think 4 games was enough of Dulcich. Yeah. I don't know if he'll be a Jersey this week, Mace, but it seems like with Lucas Kroll getting that call up, then maybe we've seen not the last of Greg Dulcich, but like he had his opportunity. He had 4 games.
I think that's a misstated metaphor there. They've spent I think with kick the tires, you're kicking the tires on Lucas Kroll right now.
Sure.
You already kicked the tires on Greg Dulcich for 4 games. He gave you 5 catches and 2 drops. And as we discussed, didn't contribute anything on special teams. And if you're going to be a backup tight end, you got to play special teams. It's the reason why Albert Okwuegbunam didn't play in 2022. That was the excuse we kept getting from Nathaniel Hackett and his staff, is that a backup tight end has to play teams. Alberto didn't play teams, so he wasn't going to get snaps until Jerry Rossberg finally said, "I want to see what this guy can do," and he caught a touchdown pass right away.
Yeah, I like that.
Hey, any chance I can get to prop up Jer Bear, I'm going to take. So
yeah, exactly. Fresh set of eyes. Now Jody asked,
go ahead.
No, Jody asked on Facebook, what is Audric Estime's status? Well, he practiced today, Mace. You were out there. How did he look?
Looked pretty good in individual drills. The question then becomes, okay, roster spot wise, what do you do now? Some of this may depend on what we're talking about with the severity of injuries. Palczewski, Luke Wattenberg, Josh Reynolds. Is there an injured reserve spot coming open? If there is, then you put one of those players on IR, Audric Estime back to the 53, then that's how you'd create a spot. Damari Mathis also returned to practice today. So for both players, we've started that window of ramping them up to decide whether you want to bring them back on recallable injured reserve or not. So we'll get into that with Mike McGlinchey next week, because McGlinchey very strategically, remember the Broncos put him on injured reserve on the Wednesday of that week, and it's 4 weeks, the Wednesday of week 3. So that partially was due to the fact that they figured he'd be ready to go for that Saints game. And depending on how long Alex Palczewski is out, wasn't on the field at all today. Luke Wattenberg wasn't on the field at all today. Josh Reynolds not on the field. If Palcho is out a few weeks, they're going to need McGlinchey in there sooner rather than later. Mm-hmm. Because I will say this, I am a little concerned about Matt Parrott over on the right side. He's played it. He played it with the Giants. He actually played more snaps at right tackle than left tackle with the Giants. But the Broncos had been using him more as a primary backup at left tackle with Palcho the backup at right tackle. Says a lot about what they thought of Palcho versus Parrott at right tackle, that despite Parrott's experience at that spot, they immediately went to Mike McGlinchey when Palcho went down. Or Palcho that.
Yeah, it's all good. And we all got to talk about the run game help, something Sean Payton talked about today, because no matter who's in on the offensive line, you got to run block. You got to keep this ground game going with Javonte leading the way. Here's what Coach Payton said.
Look, we're running the ball better.
Game help.
I keep talking about all of us coaches, of providing the perfect pictures, and he's getting experience. You see it, and
it's happening.
It's all happening.
Sean
the
Payton.
support he needs. What?
Sean Payton's happening.
You know what else is happening? Bo Nix is giving it back to Sean Payton. Sean Payton calling Bo Nix Ferris Bueller. Well, Bo Nix had something.
So that's right. Is that the Bo processor clip?
No, did I not send you the clip?
I don't think you sent me the clip.
Bo and Sean nicknames.
Ah, dang it. I don't think I got that one.
I sent it at 4:35, buddy.
Ah, there you go. Okay. I set the show at 4:30 and then I don't check my email. So there you go. Hey, darn. This is what we get. It's a live show, everybody. Well, it's a live show.
Can you get the clip in? Because I'd like to.
That's uploading right now.
Okay. That's this.
It's all good. It's all good.
Okay. All right.
Good. Yeah. So
I had that perfectly segued.
I know. Set it up, knock it down. Set it up and knock it down. And well, we know that Bo and Sean are building that relationship. You love to see it, Mace, and it's science. It's natural. It's part of what you do, right? As these two grow together, and you can tell I'm stalling as it's processing.
It's science. It's also ball busting.
Yeah.
And it's something that Sean Payton and Drew Brees could do. Drew Brees would yap back to Sean Payton, right? And so, to his credit, Bo Nix did a little bit of, I hate to use this phrase, he did his own research, and he went back and found out a nickname for Sean Payton. Here we go.
And yeah, I called him Ferris out here, and he called me Dennis because that was my nickname from Parcells. So Dennis the Menace and Ferris Bueller.
Dennis the Menace and Ferris Bueller. I like that. That's good.
Dennis the Menace seems pretty apt for Sean Payton, does it not?
Yeah, and just going back to either the cartoon strip or the cartoon, like Dennis the Menace was a little aloha. Like, I got to clean that one up for YouTube and radio purposes, but like, yeah, Dennis the Menace, he's kind of a little jerk running around there. So Parcells calling Sean Payton Dennis the Menace, okay, makes sense.
One of the compilation of Dennis the Menace comic strips referred to him in the title of the book as a household hurricane. Sean Payton is a football organization hurricane. Rolls through, and then it's not the same once he's left.
Yep.
Changes everything. Stuff gets blown around. It can be kind of chaotic. Dennis the Menace is a very apt nickname for Sean Payton, if you ask me.
Very much so. So that's good. It's good to see the fun and the ball busting thing. You can only do that with your boys. One of my don't be that guys is like, don't be that guy that tries to bust balls when you're the new guy, where you don't know people yet. Like, but once you get to know people, yeah, you can give each other grief. That's what it's about.
You think Sean Payton missed that with his year with Russell Wilson?
Oh yeah,
They didn't really have that.
No.
They didn't seem to have a lot of shared moments.
Oh God, no, not at all, not at all. But away we go.
I mean, I think also Sean Payton probably, when it comes to that, he likes those interactions because those interactions are authentic. And it's fair to question, the authenticity that Russell Wilson has sometimes when he's he's on the clock, basically. It's honestly like guys in the locker room that, they're focused on the here and now, but it's definitely a different vibe in there than it was last year.
Yeah, Garrett Bolles talked about the change of culture.
Yeah.
It's completely different than it was last year, and then 2 years ago, it's like just a different facility, a different dimension we've walked into.
Well, it's a completely different team because there aren't a lot of guys that are even left from 2022.
Right.
A lot of the rosters turned over since Nathaniel Hackett was around.
Thank goodness. Let's talk about Bo's processor before we're out of here, because I think this is a great clip from Sean Payton, who says, okay, how can you help out? You got all these offensive line injuries. How can you protect Bo Nix? Well, his processor keeps him ahead of the play. Here's what Sean Payton
processing the defense, my experience is, and it's the hardest thing always for us to evaluate with some of the college players, but quickly and a decision quickly is helpful at avoiding and you're having to see it longer than so his ability to process, aside from obviously he can move, but his ability to process.
Of course, Sean Payton will often say that sacks are more of a quarterback stat than an offensive line stat / protection stat. And the Broncos went from 27th in the league last year in sack rate to 3rd so far this season.
Mm-hmm. No, it's good. It's good. And Bo's good because he's going to get you out of a jam sometimes. It's not going to be blocked perfectly every time. The pressure as well. So Bo can do that.
We saw that in Tampa Bay. The play where he took off, turned a sure sack into marching the Broncos into field goal range, getting more points. We didn't see that as much in this past game against the Raiders. I wouldn't be surprised if we see it based on the pressure packages that you're probably going to get from the Chargers on Sunday coming in here. And in a game that could be 13-10, 16-13, something like that, a timely Bo Nix scramble might make all the difference here. And in the duel of Oregon quarterbacks, Bo Nix and Justin Herbert. Bo Nix is healthy. Justin Herbert's banged up. So Bo's probably going to be able to do some things with his legs at full health that perhaps Justin Herbert can't at this moment.
Okay. We done, Mace? That's a wrap for today?
I think we're done. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds
I think
good.
it's been good.
How you feeling? Feeling all right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're feeling all right, and we hope you are as well. He is Andrew Mason. Want you to follow him on all the socials. But before we're out of here, Andrew, people got to help us on YouTube. How can they do that?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never
miss
vid.
That's right. He's Andrew Mason. All the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.